I didn't even plan on staying over that night. That's what still messes with my head when I think about how it all started. It was supposed to be a casual thing. Friday night hang, a few beers, some trashy movies, the kind of low-effort plans my best friend Luke and I fell into without even trying. We'd known each other since sophomore year of high school, and after college, we stayed close, even though life had dragged us into different routines. That night, we were at his place. Not his apartment, his dad's house. Luke had moved back home temporarily while saving up to get his own place again. I hadn't seen his dad in years, not since we were teenagers. Back then, Mr. Harrington was just Luke's dad, a bit strict, ex-military, always clean-shaven, always intimidating. Not someone I ever imagined I'd have any sort of connection with, let alone what ended up happening. Luke and I stayed up way too late, drinking and laughing at some old sci-fi flick that looked like it was filmed in someone's basement. I don't even remember what time I crashed, just that Luke offered his old bed and said he'd take the couch. I barely argued. My head was buzzing from the drinks, and the room was spinning just enough to make me want to close my eyes and disappear into sleep. What I didn't expect was to wake up like that. The room was dark, not pitch black, but that soft blue-gray light that comes just before the sun. I was groggy, my limbs heavy, my mouth dry. I could hear birds faintly outside. And then, I felt it. Movement. At first, I thought I was dreaming the way you do when you're half asleep and everything feels a little unreal. But then I realized someone was sitting on the edge of the bed. I didn't move right away. My breath caught in my throat, my mind slowly trying to piece together what was happening. The mattress had shifted under the weight of someone else. Someone who wasn't Luke. I could tell by the way the silhouette moved. He was older, broader. Then I heard it. A soft voice, low and quiet. "You awake?" My eyes snapped open. Mr. Harrington. He was shirtless, wearing only sweatpants that clung low to his hips. The light from the hallway behind him outlined his body in shadows. Lean, muscular, the kind of shape that made you rethink everything you thought you knew about middle-aged dads. I blinked, confused. Yeah. He didn't answer at first, just sat there, looking down at me, not angry, not confused, just watching. "I didn't mean to wake you," he said finally, "just couldn't sleep." I didn't know what to say. I sat up slightly, pulling the blanket with me. Did something happen? He shook his head, then sighed, long and slow. "No, I just saw your door open. Figured you might be awake too." I nodded slowly, still trying to catch up. "I guess I am now." He looked tired, not in a falling asleep on the couch way, more like there was something on his mind. I couldn't help but notice the way he rubbed his hand across his chest. Slow, thoughtful, his eyes moved across the room, then back to me. "You look different than you used to," he said suddenly. My heart skipped. "Yeah? I mean, it's been a while." "You filled out." He tilted his head slightly. More confident now. I didn't know what to say to that. Compliments from your best friend's dad weren't exactly a common thing. "Thanks, I guess," I said, trying to keep my voice light. He looked at me a little longer, like he was measuring something. Then he leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees. "You always were a quiet one," I shrugged. "Still am." I noticed. He gave me a half smile. "But tonight, you didn't seem that quiet." I laughed nervously. "Yeah, well, alcohol helps." "I could tell." He paused. "You looked good, comfortable, like you belonged." I swallowed, suddenly hyper-aware of the blanket against my chest. "Thanks." The air between us shifted. I didn't know why I didn't tell him to go back to bed. I didn't know why I didn't call out for Luke or make some awkward joke to diffuse the moment. I just sat there, heart racing, thoughts spinning, as this man, my best friend's dad, kept watching me with something unreadable in his eyes. Then he reached out. Not aggressively, just curious. His fingers brushed my shoulder, light as air, then slid down toward my chest. His hand hovered there, not quite touching, and for a second I forgot how to breathe. "You're warm?" he murmured. "Still half asleep?" I didn't answer, and then he did something I'll never forget. He leaned in, not a full kiss, not yet, but close enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath. His hand grazed down my arm, slow and deliberate. "I'm sorry," he said softly, "but I've been thinking about this since the moment I saw you again." And just like that, everything changed. I didn't sleep after that. Not really. I lay there for what felt like hours, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, brain spinning in 100 directions. Mr. Harrington, Luke's dad, had just touched me, kissed me, whispered something that felt more like a confession than a flirtation, and then just walked out, like it was nothing. Like he hadn't just completely upended my sense of reality. I didn't know what I was supposed to do with that. When I finally drifted off again, it was shallow, restless sleep. And by the time morning came, I was still running on fumes. I found Luke already in the kitchen, looking way too cheerful for someone who'd also been drinking the night before. "Yo," he said through a mouthful of cereal. "You sleep okay?" I lied. "Yeah, crashed hard." He motioned toward the counter. "Coffee's fresh if you want." I nodded, trying to act normal, but the kitchen felt too bright, too exposed. Every creak of the floorboard made my shoulders tighten. I kept waiting for his dad to walk in, to say something, to act like last night hadn't happened. Or worse, to act like it had, but Mr. Harrington wasn't there. "He's probably at the gym," Luke said, as if reading my mind. "He gets in early." "Right, yeah." I poured myself a cup of coffee, my hands still a little shaky. Luke kept talking, something about the new Zelda game, but I was barely listening. I couldn't stop thinking about the way his dad had looked at me. The way his hand had rested on my chest like he'd been holding something back for years. What did it mean? Was he drunk? Was it a one-time thing? Did he regret it? Or worse, did he not? That afternoon, Luke and I hung out in the backyard, tossing a football around like old times. It helped, a little. The fresh air, the normalcy. I almost forgot about last night. Almost. And then, I felt it. A presence. I turned my head and saw him standing on the porch. Mr. Harrington. He was in his gym clothes, a tight black tee and shorts that left little to the imagination. He looked like he hadn't aged a day. If anything, he looked better now than he did when I was in high school. His eyes met mine, just for a second, and then he looked away. No smile, no nod, just silence. It felt like a slap. He walked inside without saying a word. I told myself that was good, clean, no drama, but it didn't feel that way. Later that night, after Luke had gone to bed and the house was still, I found myself standing in the hallway, staring at the closed door to Mr. Harrington's bedroom. I didn't knock. I didn't go in. I just stood there. My heart was racing, my skin hot with the memory of his touch. I don't know how long I stood there before I turned around and went back to bed. But I knew, without a doubt, this wasn't over. The next day was quiet, too quiet. I kept waiting for something to happen. A look, a comment, a conversation, anything to address what had happened in that dark bedroom. But Mr. Harrington didn't say a word. If anything, he avoided me, which should have been a relief, honestly. It wasn't. We spent the afternoon helping Luke organize boxes in the garage. Mr. Harrington was there too, lifting heavy crates like it was nothing, occasionally tossing out dry jokes that made Luke laugh. He didn't look at me once, not even when I handed him a tool or brushed past him to grab something off a shelf. I kept trying to tell myself it meant nothing, that he wanted to forget it happened, that it was a one-time impulse, a midnight mistake, but something about the way his jaw clenched when I laughed with Luke, or the way he disappeared into the house early while we were still cleaning, it told me there was more he wasn't saying. That night, after dinner, Luke suggested we crash early. "We're getting up for that early hike tomorrow, remember?" he said. I nodded, trying to hide the flicker of nerves that flared in my chest. Right, the hike. By 10, Luke was snoring in the other room, and I was once again lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Waiting. I hated that I was waiting. And then, it happened again. A soft knock, same as before. 3 gentle taps. I sat up in bed, heart racing. The door opened. This time, he didn't speak. He just stepped inside and closed it behind him. He was shirtless, wearing just loose joggers that hung low on his hips. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "I shouldn't be here," he said. I didn't say anything. I just watched him. He crossed the room slowly, each step careful, measured, like he didn't know if I'd let him come any closer. But I didn't stop him. I didn't move. He sat down on the edge of the bed again. "Just like last time. You've been avoiding me," I said finally. He exhaled through his nose. "I thought it'd be easier." "Was it?" "No." He looked at me then. Really looked. And there was something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Not just desire, not just guilt, something softer, sadder. "I'm not proud of what I did," he said quietly. "But I can't stop thinking about it. About you." I swallowed. "Then why act like it didn't happen?" "Because I didn't trust myself not to do it again." He reached out, his fingers brushing against mine. This time, I didn't flinch. I let our hands touch, let the weight of it settle between us. "This is insane," I said. "I know." There was a long pause. He looked down at our hands. "If you tell me to leave, I will." I didn't answer. Instead, I leaned forward, just enough for our foreheads to touch. And in that quiet moment, no words, no expectations. We stayed like that, just breathing, just being. Then, slowly, his lips found mine. There was nothing rushed about it. No urgency. Just something slow, searching, full of hesitation and heat all at once. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. "I don't know what this is," he whispered, his hand still holding mine. "But I haven't felt like this in a long time." "Me neither." And this time, when he stayed, I didn't stop him. That night changed everything. I don't even mean what happened physically, though, yeah, we kissed again, and it wasn't innocent. But more than that, something shifted between us. The tension that had been quietly crackling for days finally broke. And in the stillness of that guest room, with the door closed and the world asleep, we crossed a line we couldn't uncross. We didn't go all the way. Not that night. Maybe we both knew it would have made things even more complicated. But we stayed close, pressed together under the covers, skin against skin, breathing each other in like we were both afraid it might be the only time. He didn't leave until the sky started to lighten. I watched him slip out of the room, quiet and barefoot, his expression unreadable. He didn't look back. When I got up a couple hours later, the house felt different. Luke was already outside, packing a cooler for the hike he'd been planning all week. "Dude, you slept in," he called when he saw me. "We're leaving in like 15. I nodded and rubbed my eyes, pretending I was just groggy, not completely rattled. Mr. Harrington was nowhere in sight. We drove out to the trailhead just after 9 a.m. Luke was his usual self, loud, sarcastic, tossing granola bars at my face and challenging me to race up the hills. I kept up the act, but my mind wasn't on the hike. It was on the man who wasn't there. "You okay?" Luke asked after we stopped at a lookout point. "You've been weird today." I forced a laugh. "Didn't sleep great. All good." He didn't push, thank God. By the time we got back, it was close to mid-afternoon. The sun was high, the house was hot, and I was hoping maybe things would have returned to some kind of normal. Nope. Mr. Harrington was in the garage, shirtless again, working on something at the workbench. I saw the muscles in his back shift as he bent over a tool drawer, saw the way he paused when he heard the door open behind him. He didn't turn around. Luke breezed past him like nothing was weird and went straight into the kitchen. I lingered. "You okay?" I asked quietly. Still not looking at me, he said, "Fine. Last night." "Don't," he cut in. "Not harsh, just tired." "Not here." I hesitated, then nodded. Later, he finally turned, met my eyes for the first time that day. There was something in his gaze, regret, maybe, or fear, but underneath it, still that flicker of heat. "Later," he said. That evening, Luke went out to meet some friends for drinks. "You coming?" he asked, already halfway out the door. "Nah, I'm beat," I said. "Gonna chill here." He didn't question it, just tossed me a lazy wave and disappeared. The second the door clicked shut behind him, I heard footsteps behind me. Mr. Harrington stood in the hallway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "You stayed on purpose," he said. I nodded. "So did you." He stepped closer. "We need to talk." "I know." He motioned toward the living room and we both sat. Not next to each other, not yet. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "This can't be a thing," he said quietly. "You know that, right?" "I do." "You're too young. You're Luke's best friend. This is insane." "Yeah. But," he trailed off, shaking his head, "I haven't felt this in years, and I don't know what to do with it." "Maybe we don't have to do anything," I said. "Maybe we just let it be whatever it is, for now." He looked at me, eyes scanning my face like he was trying to memorize it. Then he reached out, slow, tentative, and touched my knee. That small contact was all it took. I moved closer, so did he. And before I knew it, I was in his arms again, our lips finding each other with more urgency than the night before. There was no hesitation now. Just two people who had crossed too many lines to turn back. This time, we didn't stop. I don't know how long we were in the living room. Could have been 15 minutes. Could have been an hour. Time kind of stopped once his hands were on me, once I stopped pretending I didn't want this. We didn't talk much. Not with words. It was all touch. Eyes. Breath. That pull between us that had been building in silence since the moment I stepped into that house. When he kissed me again, it wasn't cautious anymore. It was hungry, focused, like he'd finally allowed himself to admit that this wasn't going to go away on its own, that something between us had shifted, and the only way through it was forward. I ended up straddling his lap on the couch, his hands gripping my thighs, mine tangled in the hem of his shirt. Every time our mouths broke apart for air, we'd just look at each other for a beat, stunned almost that this was actually happening. "You sure?" he murmured against my neck, his breath warm. I nodded. "I'm way past sure." When we finally moved to the bedroom, his bedroom, it wasn't rushed. He closed the door behind us like it was symbolic. Like, this was the moment we both stopped pretending we didn't want more. It was different in there. Calmer. The air felt heavier, the room darker, more private. He kissed me again at the foot of the bed. Slower this time. Less frantic. I felt his hands at my waist, slipping under my shirt, his fingers warm and steady. Every touch felt deliberate, like he was learning me by heart. When he pulled my shirt over my head and tossed it aside, he stepped back for a second. Just looked at me. "You're beautiful," he said. I laughed, half nervous, half flattered. "You're not so bad yourself." "No, seriously." He ran a hand through his hair, almost like he didn't know how to say what he was thinking. "You don't get it. You walk into a room and I can't look away." I swallowed hard. "Then don't." He didn't. Something I wasn't ready to name but couldn't ignore. It was careful, gentle. The kind of connection that catches you off guard because it feels too real, too good, too dangerous to admit you want. We didn't talk afterward. We just lay there, tangled up in each other, listening to the ceiling fan buzz and the quiet hum of the night outside. He rested his hand on my chest, thumb stroking the edge of my collarbone. I could feel his breath slow as he relaxed beside me. For a long time, we just stayed like that. Breathing, settling. It felt safe, which was weird considering how completely not safe this whole thing was. Eventually, he whispered, "You should sneak back to your room." I nodded but didn't move, and he didn't ask again. I finally slipped out of his bed just before sunrise. The house was still. Not even the birds were awake yet. I crept down the hallway barefoot, wearing only my boxers and a borrowed t-shirt, heart pounding like I was 16 again, sneaking out of somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. When I shut the door to the guest room behind me, I leaned against it and let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. What the hell were we doing? I crawled back into my own bed, the sheets still cool, my mind spinning. The weight of what had just happened hadn't fully settled yet. It felt surreal, like something I'd dreamt and wasn't quite ready to admit was real. But it was real. Every slow touch, every kiss, every quiet moment we didn't dare speak out loud. By the time I heard Luke's door open and the creak of the stairs, I'd already pulled the covers up, pretending to just be waking up. He poked his head in. "You alive?" "Barely," I mumbled, voice thick with sleep I hadn't really gotten. He grinned. "Coffee's on. Get up, zombie." I nodded, playing my part, and dragged myself out of bed. In the kitchen, Mr. Harrington was already there. This time, he looked at me. Brief, careful eye contact over a cup of coffee. Nothing dramatic. Just a second too long. Just enough to make my stomach flip. He wore a hoodie this time, sleeves pushed up, trying to look casual, normal, like nothing had happened. Luke, of course, didn't notice a thing. He was scrolling through his phone, humming along to whatever song was playing in his headphones. But I noticed everything. The way Mr. Harrington's hand trembled just slightly when he set his mug down. The way he stood a little too far away from me. The silence between us, thick and charged. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for him to say, "Last night was a mistake." Or worse, to pretend it didn't happen at all. But he didn't say anything. That whole day passed in slow motion. Luke wanted to go out, hit the mall, grab food, run errands. I said yes just to get out of the house, to distract myself, to stop looking over my shoulder waiting for something to go wrong. We were gone most of the afternoon. When we came back, the house was quiet. Mr. Harrington's car wasn't in the driveway. "Guess he went out," Luke said. I nodded, pretending not to care. That night, I sat on the deck alone while Luke FaceTimed his girlfriend upstairs. The sky was dark, clear, stars scattered like someone had spilled them on black velvet. I heard the car pull into the driveway just before midnight. A few minutes later, the sliding door creaked open behind me. "You're still up," Mr. Harrington said. I didn't turn around. Couldn't sleep. He stepped out slowly, barefoot, holding a glass of water. He stood beside me, not too close, not too far. We stared out at the backyard for a while. "You okay?" I asked finally. He nodded. "I am now." We didn't touch, not this time, but we didn't need to. There was something different in the air, like we both knew the gravity of what had started between us, and we both knew it wasn't going to end cleanly. After a while, he said quietly, "I don't regret last night." I turned to look at him. "Neither do I." He gave a small smile, almost sad. "This isn't going to be easy. I know, but I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen." I nodded. "Good." He reached out then, just barely, and let his fingers brush mine for a second before pulling away. That was it. A quiet, careful moment. A promise we hadn't put into words yet. The next morning was the last of the weekend. I woke up to the smell of bacon and coffee, and for a second, everything felt weirdly normal. Like the past couple nights hadn't completely rearranged how I saw this house, this trip, this man. Luke was already packing up some of his stuff. "Hey, you still good for that ride back?" he asked, tossing a hoodie into his duffel. "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. I made my way downstairs, still in that strange half-awake state. Mr. Harrington was at the stove, flipping eggs like nothing was different. But then he turned his head slightly, caught my eye, and gave me a look I couldn't mistake for anything casual. It lasted half a second, but it said everything. After breakfast, we started loading the car. Luke was focused on cramming his skateboard into the trunk, complaining about how much stuff he'd brought. Mr. Harrington stood nearby, sipping from a mug, arms crossed, just watching. At one point, when Luke disappeared inside to grab his charger, it was just the two of us by the car. "I wanted to say something," he said, his voice low. I glanced over. "Yeah?" He rubbed the back of his neck, hesitated. "I don't know where this goes, if it goes anywhere, but I want to talk. After." "After what?" "After you leave," he said. "After you have space to think." I nodded. "Okay." He gave a faint smile. "I didn't plan this, you know." "Me neither. I just saw you again, and..." He stopped, searching for the words. "And everything I'd pushed down for years suddenly didn't stay buried." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. We both knew that something had changed between us. Whether or not we'd admit it to anyone else, even ourselves, was a different matter. Luke came back out, tossing his charger into the front seat. "You ready?" I nodded, climbing into the passenger seat. Mr. Harrington leaned in slightly, resting a hand on the roof of the car. "Take care of yourself," he said. But he was looking at me. "Yeah," I said. "You too." The drive back was quiet. Luke blasted some music, drumming the steering wheel. I stared out the window, heart still stuck in that house, in that bed, in those few nights that shifted the ground under me. I didn't hear from him for a week. No texts. No calls. Nothing. I tried to tell myself that was fine, that it made sense. He was Luke's dad, not some guy the first met at a bar. There were layers to this. Complications, consequences, all the things that make a connection like ours feel more dangerous than romantic. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. About the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. About how carefully he moved when he touched me, like I was something he wasn't sure he deserved to want. About the quiet weight of his words the last time we spoke. I didn't know what I was expecting. Closure? A plan? Maybe just proof that it hadn't all been in my head. But then, late one night, way past midnight, my phone lit up. Unknown number. "You still thinking about me?" My chest tightened. I stared at the screen for a second before replying. "Yeah." 3 dots. Then, "I haven't stopped." That was it. That was all it took for everything to come rushing back. Over the next few days, we talked. Carefully at first. Just texts. Checking the temperature, feeling out the space between us. It was like learning a new language, one built on hesitation, timing, and restraint. Eventually, he called. His voice was the same. Low, calm, controlled. But I could hear the tension under it. "I can't stop thinking about you," he said. "And I don't know what that means yet, but I don't want to pretend I don't feel it." "Me either." "Luke can't find out." "I know. Can you live with that?" I didn't answer right away, but I thought about how it had felt to lie next to him. To have someone see me not just for who I was, but for who I might be, if I let them. And I realized I wasn't ready to walk away from that. "I can live with it," I said. "For now." And that's where we left it. Not a love story. Not yet. Just two people who found each other in the wrong place, at the wrong time, and decided to figure it out anyway. Whatever this was, messy, quiet, real, it wasn't over. And maybe that was enough.